You're on.
Hello, world. Welcome aboard, all you ground troops spinning around smartly on the planet. I'm going to share today the cosmic conscious beings, and we're going to explain all of that. We have a guest today, but let me introduce Janette Lessin of Maui, Hawaii, our regular co host, and make sure we're not getting any feedback anywhere. So, is there any feedback, Janet? Are we okay?
No, it's a little bit, but it's okay. Maybe look at your speaker mic and see if you're too high. I'll look at mine. Anyway, I'm over here in Maui, Hawaii, and as many of you might be aware, we're about to get another 4 or 5 days of torrential downpours, and we have been struggling with flooding. And my property has damage and my water system's down, and everybody has a story here in the islands of their houses are getting washed away and the grounds is pretty saturated. So if you can find an avenue to donate to Hawaiian Islands right now, we're in for another week of trouble. and whatever you to planetary changes, earth changes, whatever, there's something that's not normal about the weather. And we're under siege right now. So I myself, and I've never done this, I never beg for money, but I have to put up a GoFundMe or I'm done. I won't have any water. So I'm just doing a little appeal. I have to get a new roof because this level of rain and the wind has destroyed my roof. I have to go to catchment for months, and I have to put all the new gutters and downspouts. I have to get a larger tank, which is 10, 20 grand. I don't know. It's just, so I will be putting that out later and adding it to all my links, because if I don't get help, I won't be able to live here anymore. And I really don't have any options, plan B, when you're on Social Security. So
living in paradise. That's her speech today.
Paradise, but it's the most expensive place in the United States to live. And it just got more expensive, and you can't keep up. So anyway, that's it. So, but I'm really excited to meet Dave Hunt. Let me tell. I want you to talk about yourself, David, because I was watching a couple of your videos, and they're really fascinating, and I highly recommend them.
Dave Hunt. No, he's from Wales. Dave, go ahead and introduce yourself while Janet's looking for some information that she would like to share with everybody from her website.
Well, no, it's right here.
Let David introduce himself.
David, I think it's better because your bio is brief. But I think the real experience is taking a walk with David Hunt, because Dave takes these walks every day, and he just it's a stream of consciousness, and it's fascinating. So your turn, David. Welcome to the show, and tell us about yourself and your work and what you are talking about and your encounters with whatever you're encountering. I won't give it away. Go ahead, your turn, David.
Sorry. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yes.
What I'm doing at the moment is about 2 months ago I started a YouTube channel that's called David Hunt Talks. And what I'm doing, like you said in the videos, is just cataloguing the events of my life and then weaving hopefully some spiritual wisdoms that I've learned along the way and incorporate them into the shows. So yeah, I started off my life as a pretty standard alien abductee, if you like. And then when I was in my 20s, a group of entities that were, let's just say for now that they were non-human intelligences, they came to me and wanted me to start a contact program with other people. And for a couple of years, I led a contact program where I was taking people out to meet them, which has all been documented by the Birmingham UFO group, where they all came forward and gave testimony to say that they had met these beings with me. And then I realized after a couple of years that was deceptive in nature, and these guys weren't who they claimed to be. And then I started a genuine spiritual awakening after the aftermath of that. And now I'm coming out and just talking to people about the pitfalls of dealing with non-human intelligences and about how we need to gain discernment, because these guys, the guys that came to me in my 20s that started all this, they came to me as if they were in like higher dimensional beings. But I came later on to find out that wasn't the case. Do you know what I mean? So like I'm assuming that they are doing this program with a lot of other people as well and getting involved in a lot of other people's lives who are on the spiritual path, and so I just try to expose them basically. I'm simplifying it, but yeah,
Wow. Can I ask you a question? And we'll go back and forth because this is fascinating. So you're having encounters. So the one I watched was your spiritual awakening, but you had before that you had regular. Were they beings that you could describe as like Greys or Dracos or which beings are you being taken by?
So as a kid, I just assumed as a kid that everybody was going through the same thing. I didn't know that there were people until I was about 5 or 6 when I was trying to like talk to friends about it at school and stuff, and then realized that people were turning around and saying, "Oh, what are you talking about?" I just assumed that they were coming to everybody, and those guys mainly look like the Greys, the sort of stereotypical Greys. But sometimes when they would come into the bedroom, they would come in with soldiers as well.
Oh.
So I knew, like as a child, that like basically that there seemed to be some blend between these guys and some form of military, like human beings, coming in with them and walking through the wall with them as well into my bedroom. So like, and they were wearing like American military uniforms.
Oh.
So
they were American abductees. They came all the way to the UK to get you.
Yeah, I was in London at the time.
London at the time, right? Yeah. Fascinating.
And how old were you when you saw these beings, and why did you know they were impersonating U.S. officers, or do you think you were consciously taken by U.S. officers?
So I think that obviously at the time, as from a child's perspective, when I was born, I was kind of like into army things, like I had soldiers, like toy soldiers and all that kind of stuff. And I recognized the uniforms as being American, not English, just because of the way the helmets were on their heads. But at the time, the British helmets were more saucer shaped, where the Americans had the dropped ear, like
What year were you born, Dave? What year were you born? So we have a perspective.
Yeah, 1976.
76. Okay.
Younger than Gigi. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But yeah. So basically, they were coming to me like regularly. I don't have any sort of memory of like what was happening during the abductions, but I consciously remembered them all the time coming into the room. And my sister was going through the same thing as well. So, but we would both be taken on the same night sometimes, because we would both remember, the initial encounter at the same time.
What age were you? 4 or 6?
So yeah, so that's kind of like my earliest memory, is that kind of between 4 and 5. but I would assume that it happened like from birth, basically, because my mum and dad didn't have their first paranormal encounter until just after I was born. That's how they remember it. They actually called the police on an intruder, which was one of them. So my dad, I'm sorry, this does sound crazy, but my dad chased one into a pub like that. So my dad was a big guy, he was like kind of 20 odd stone, you know, like tough bloke. I mean, they were running a newsagent shop in a rough part of London called Balham at the time. And basically, they chased one downstairs into the shop, and he ran across the counter and went out the back into a cupboard. And my dad pinned him into the cupboard. When the men phoned the police, who came and then told my dad to step back from the door, and when he did, there was no one there.
Oh my goodness. They teleported out.
Yeah, and I was about 3 months old at that point, so like that's how they say that's the first time they had anything strange happen in their life. So I'm kind of assuming that it was going on from the moment I was born. And another thing was I had a public. So I was taken when I was about 4 years old from the nursery during the day, and for whatever reason, because I remember them being in the toilets of the nursery when I went in there, but that's the last thing I remember. But I was found 4 miles away across the other side of London, and I was 4 years old.
Do you have any idea why you? Why is it something genetic?
So yeah,
in the family.
So I believe that they are part of a control system that operates in this world. Now, I've looked for different clues as to why it could be me. I sometimes wonder whether maybe. Now, when I was first born, sorry, I'll just jump in. But when I was first born, I actually remember my mum said that I never really smiled as a child, you know. And then one of my first memories of being here was the fact that I wasn't happy about being back here.
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
Yeah, I said, "Oh no, not here again, no."
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's just like, and I can remember kind of like not being happy about it, and so I've got a feeling that there's like a deeper story going on that I'm not aware of. So there's also that. There's also there is a bit of a touchy subject really. I have talked about it on one of the videos, but we had a bit of an incident where my great nan worked at Buckingham Palace.
Oh.
And she claimed that she was assaulted, let's say, by a prominent member of the royal family, and that my granddad was the product of that. So we were wondering whether perhaps it was a genetic thing, because we're carrying in their DNA. Perhaps it's just a possibility. Yeah. So that's one of the lines, you know, that it could be. I have been accused of being a reptile over the years.
Oh my goodness! Let me make a disclaimer here, David, if you don't mind. I just had one of the technicians come in my room. They're not picking your sound up, but folks, let me just tell you, he's new at this and doesn't have the technical equipment in his home, so he's doing the best he can with his phone on speaker. And so other than, I don't know if you want to try getting closer to the mic or.
So I can, but it means I've got to put my face closer to the camera.
Yeah, okay.
I see.
What about
that was better.
Yeah.
Well, is that better, is it? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. It's not so, because obviously there's my face is not really important. So if it's being hear me properly.
We like to see your face because we're on YouTube. Our video, but does that help you any?
Yeah, that's good.
Is that okay?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, okay. I've cupped the phone with my hands, so let's see if that's helping.
Let me turn down.
Yeah, thank you. It's just that people want to hear your story, and we're having a little trouble.
Okay.
So, you know, I met a man years ago before I even got into this level of research who had been recruited by some kind. It was almost like the Montauk Project, but it was the British variation, and they recruited him at 3 years old, and they had him actually sign a contract because he was highly intelligent. Apparently, he was the right DNA. They had this program working with. So you were not given that type of information. Yours was a mystery. Is that correct? You didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, no one ever came forward to me. No one ever offered me a deal or a choice. Yeah, I was basically kept in the dark all the time. I can remember that occasionally having kind of like communication phrase, but it was never anything personal. It was always just these kind of, broad statements or whatever, just to get me to comply. Yeah, I never felt like I had any, an input, if you like. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you said at some point they turned, and then I didn't quite hear you at the beginning. So you had other people that were in this program as well, other people that were taken by the group military and extraterrestrials?
So, yeah, that's not it. Well, it ultimately I found out it was part of the same thing, but initially that's not what I thought.
I'm having trouble hearing you. Let's try something again. Back up from the mic because I think it's creating too much feedback.
Okay.
There we go. There we go.
Okay. How's that?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you pull your phone down just a tiny bit? Yeah, we can see your beautiful beard there.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for the interruptions, Dave. It's a very good story, and it's happened to a lot of people around the world. That's why we're calling this cosmic conscious beings. A lot of us are just waking up because there are more levels of reality than we're been told in the 3D world, So
Absolutely,
welcome.
Yeah.
We appreciate you sharing your way of life and knowing, because it's a conscious knowing that there are other realities that can slide, or we can slide in, sort of like with AI sliding into your DMs, whether you want them to or not. They're there, and we're just now becoming aware of them among ourselves. So back to your story. So your family was aware of this when you were a child. Your sister had the same thing. We think it could be DNA related. And then go on with your story, because you've grown up, since that age?
Yeah, tried to, yeah.
Tried to, yeah, we all do, with different types of beings. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what happened was, with the event video, more information on
Oh, you got to pull it a little bit closer again.
Okay, that happened to me when I was a teenager. And then after that, I think that what happened was a program went into motion in order to derail me from my actual spiritual path. So
can you hold the phone up where I can see your face?
No, we're not going to have both. We're either going to get the story or we're going to get his face, because it's not working. So let's get the story. And we'll
can you hold it right there?
Let's see. Go ahead and talk.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what happened was,
there you go.
I was about 24, and they started a new program.
Sounds going on. I can't hear you again. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There, let's just get the sound for now so we get the story. We'll get his face now again. Okay, go ahead.
So is that better for sound, is it?
That's the sound. Go ahead. We can hear your story. Okay. Go ahead.
You can take it off speaker, maybe.
I don't know how to.
No, just go ahead. That was fine. Okay. There we go. Go ahead and speak into the better, and then we got your lovely ceiling. That's fine. Okay, go ahead.
So what happened was, after the stuff that happened during what I call the event video on YouTube, where it was taken outside of this reality.
No, you're fading again.
Put
the mic up closer to your mouth, and then
so
right there. Now don't move. Just see that. That's it.
That's better, yeah.
Much better, much better.
Okay. So what happened was, when I was about 24, I had a 3-month-old daughter at the time, and we was coming back from hospital. I'd just been to hospital to have an X-ray on my chest, because at the time I was boxing and I'd cracked a rib the night before, and I just wanted to have it X-rayed to see where I was at with it, basically. And then we were coming back from the hospital on a journey that was 20 minutes long at tops. And as we were coming through a village in Oxfordshire, a silver disc came down in front of the car, and it started pacing the car, we were driving forward, and it was like in front of us, but just above us, and it was pacing the car. And we were taken there and then, basically. We didn't remember it because we lost time. We lost about 40 minutes. So, and then what happened was, over the next 2 weeks, I started having really vivid dreams, like remembering what happened during the missing time. And they started a program with me, basically. We were taken on board the craft. My wife was stood next to me. My 3-month-old daughter was in her car seat, but on the floor in this craft. And there were 3 beings stood opposite me. And there was a woman and 2 blokes. And they looked like how I came to know, like, people describing the Nordics. They were kind of like these beautiful people. One had brown hair. The guy that was doing the main talking had blonde hair, kind of shoulder length. And there was a woman who had brunette hair. The main one in the middle, who was talking to me, told me that me and him had a overlap of egos, and that we were basically the same person. Mm. And he said that that's why we had such a strong connection, or whatever, that we could get this going. And he said that there was a conscious awakening going on in the world, and that he wanted me to act as a bridge and help other people wake up to, like, the reality of, like, non-humans and the space and everything else. I basically did agree to start that program, and then over the next 6 months, they trained me to broaden my vision and to how to let them into my body as well. There was a lot of to and fro. They were entering my dreams, and like we were having these bizarre interactions, like in dreams and stuff. So I assume that there's more to know about the dream world as well, because they definitely seem to they didn't seem to care what the difference was about this reality or a dream that I was having. They said it was easier for them to sort of meet me sometimes in dreams than it was in the physical world. And then what they would do is they take me into a social group of people, and then they would start telling me information about people that I was dealing with, and then they would select someone out of the group, and then eventually they'd get me to sort of go through a kind of awakening, kind of guru situation with that person, and then take them out to certain spots that they had where they would meet them. And those.
So this is an ongoing recruiting system. Are these people that are in the program already, or are they going outside of the program to recruit people in?
Yes, I don't know. They seem to have psychic knowledge on different people. So I'd go into a room full of people, and then they would basically know stuff about people in the room, and then they'd ask me to close in on a certain person. And then basically I would start talking to them about spiritual concepts and about conspiratorial stuff, and about did they believe in aliens and stuff. And more often than not, they were right. As if these people would be susceptible to it and open to it. And then I would start telling them that I could get them to meet these guys if they wanted, and go down that rabbit hole basically with them. And then that's what would happen. So they would arrange, these guys that I was working for would arrange with me when and how and when to do it. And then that's what I would do. I would take people out to these certain locations, and they would be there. So, and then they would have an interaction with the person that I'd taken. And then that person then would go on, with their own like journey, you know, as in like I saw different things happening to different people that were involved, and I started to question whether it was actually a positive, you know, whether I was working for the good guys or not, basically. So I started to call them out on it, and then basically my life kind of like fell apart. They turned on me, and then one night,
because you felt that there was something off or something.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And what was that? What was that? What did they do or say, or what made you feel that way?
Yes, it wasn't like one thing. It wasn't one particular thing. It was just the fact that, like, the effect that they were having on other people, like, was varied. You know, and I saw a lot of people kind of like go off the rails, basically. Like, you know, like falling out with like their own families and losing their jobs and kind of like being gaslighted a lot and being told that this was all for their spiritual good and stuff. And that was what was happening in my life as well. Like my relationship with my wife was broken down. I had the same thing, a string of bad luck with like jobs, and I ended up living in a tent. And all the time it was happening, they were telling me that it was all for my spiritual growth.
It's all for your spiritual growth.
Yeah. So these people were saying, we're going to help you with your spiritual growth, and then your life was falling apart, and other people's lives were falling apart. Is that correct? I just want to be sure I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's right. That's basically what they were saying. And they were, like, say, appearing as these kind of like beautiful human Nordics. Yeah, but there was just something a little bit off about them. They had the spaceships, they had the, you know, the blue jumpsuits, all the rest of it. But I just started to feel that they weren't who they were claiming to be.
Because we've had generations of putting that information out there with people drawing them, and they look Nordic and they have the blue outfits, and
and the messages was always about like love and light and all this kind of stuff, you know. And obviously at the time I mistakenly thought that I was a spiritually awakened being because of the stuff that had happened to me as a teenager. But I just didn't realize that I wasn't. Although you can have had spiritual experiences, it doesn't necessarily make you streetwise, you know. And so I had to learn the hard way. Basically, they ended up like making an attempt on my life, and I ended up in hospital for a month. And that's when I genuinely started my spiritual journey. Basically, it was after that.
Okay, so you had a shift. Do you have a question, TJ, or should I keep going?
Yeah. David, if you don't mind, because we deal with many levels of beings and ways of thinking, I like to think each person has their own universe in their own head, just like they have their own God. So take it for what it is. But I grew up here. I was born here, lived here most of my life in America, but I have traveled here and there, been to UK, etc. But I definitely know the difference in what we're talking about when we're talking about other beings. And you said spaceships, and I've seen spaceships too, so I'm not discounting what you're saying, but I would like to know the difference. How did you know the difference between those of us walking around as three-dimensionals versus those that were Nordics in outfits and their spaceships? Can you describe the time of going from a child to, I guess we all say we've been recruited or incorporated into a program at some point or another in this story that we're all creating. But when did you know these spaceships weren't or were spaceships? Because that's a curious word you mentioned.
Yeah, so I've come to believe that obviously that they're not spaceships, you know, now. But yeah, at the time, that was the only frame of reference I had for them because I grew up like everyone else with the kind of like ET UFO narrative, you know, and so I just, the only sort of kind of reference point I had for any of this stuff was kind of Steven Spielberg's and all that kind of, you know, narrative. So yeah, I wasn't aware of like the idea that there were other beings, you know, as in that we lived in a control system and that there are other beings like in the astral realms that are mimicking all of this stuff, you know, that's going on now. And that's where I've come to believe that they actually come from. I believe that these ships that they're piloting, that they are basically just frequency ships that can like bring them down from like a different layer to this matrix, if you like. But yeah, and sometimes when they came to me, there wouldn't be any ships at all. So most of my interactions with them, outside of meeting other people with them, was in my bedroom. It would just be that I would wake up and they would be in my bedroom. So a lot of the time I didn't see ships, but of course there were occasions where I did. So I just always assumed that they had ships, So, but yeah.
Well, let's mention the ones, because now you mentioned bedroom, and so many people will relate to your story, Dave. But those that come to our bedrooms, we're so familiar with Whitley Strieber and Steven Spielberg and the romanticism of beings coming to get to us or teach us or save us or whatever. But Whitley's was more on the little small beings. What size were your beings that came to your room? Were there tall ones and short ones, or just based on what your programming or your, I guess you'd say, your patterns, now that we're into the AI reality? What are your patterns for the aliens?
So what the main, I've never seen like reptilians or anything like that, or mantis beings, but I saw. Have you? Yeah. Okay. But I saw mainly it was these kind of 4 foot tall greys. I'd seen greys that were wearing like hoods, like as if like the way like a monk wears like a shawl or whatever.
Yeah.
I've seen them. I grabbed one once.
Okay.
I woke up in my bedroom and there was one stood next to my bed, and I managed to get the drop on him because
it was physical. You felt it.
Well, that was the thing. You see, he looked completely physical. So he was stood there on my wife's side of the bed, and I managed to wake up without moving, and I managed to stay calm because I saw him there, and I realised that he hadn't noticed that I was awake, and he was just stood, and he had a black like monk's habit on, But I would say that like to judge his height, he could have only been 4.5 foot tall, maximum. So what I did was I laid there for about sort of kind of 20 seconds and let myself wake up fully, but without moving. And then when I felt ready, I turned around and grabbed him. And as I grabbed him, only for a split second did I feel anything, but he turned like shocked. And as he turned, and he, as if he was going to turn to run away, but as he turned to run away, he just dissipated like smoke. He went,
right.
And my hand just went straight through him. But I knew then that I could, they weren't these kind of all perfect beings. They were capable of being shocked, and they were capable of like not realizing what was about to happen and stuff. So.
Wow.
Well, let's go back to your time in the hospital then. And you said that was when your spiritual journey began, because, folks, this show was all incorporated about we are the authors of our own life journey. And that statement keeps most of us sane in this 3D world. And we're writing our own life story. We figured out that we're born here, we live here, and we die here. And we don't know that it's by choice. We haven't proven that yet. Some people like to think about that. But Janet, go ahead.
Well, I want to do the spiritual journey, but I want to go back. How did you end up in the hospital? How did they try to kill you and do your spiritual journey?
Okay.
Yeah, so like I say, there's no hold bars with my story. That's the whole point of me doing the YouTube channel, is I'm not hiding anything from anyone. I want people to sort of hear it all, kind of warts and all. So what happened was when, after I'd called them out and decided that I wouldn't work with them anymore, there was a couple of instances where they tried to like come to me, and I kept turning around and saying, I'm not interested, I'm not playing anymore. And I moved from England to Wales to be with my mum and dad, who were living up here. and I was trying to get away from them. Do you know what I mean? I know that sounds ridiculous, but I had to get away from everybody, if you like, you know. So I was up here, and then one night, what happened was I had this terrible feeling, and I wasn't depressed at the time, but the feeling was like, imagine if you were like in a lift. I don't know, you call them lifts, don't you, in America? You know, elevators, yeah.
Right.
Imagine if like a serial killer walked into that lift when you was on your own and just stood right behind you and had a malintent towards you. That is how I felt all evening. There was something right on my back, and it was horrendous. Like I could not shake the feeling. I was going out for a cigarette, you know, like no one else could feel it or anything, my mum and dad or anything. It was just me. And I knew that I felt like, you know, I'm under attack here. This is external. And then I made a really bad mistake. I decided that I'd go to bed and that I'd go to sleep, and that was all I could do. But when I went to sleep, basically I must have lowered my defenses. And then the next thing I remember is that I woke up in hospital 3 days later. Now, what they're saying is that the story is that at some point in the night, when my mum and dad had gone to bed, I went downstairs, sank a bottle of my mum's Valium with whiskey, went out of the house, walked up the road, collapsed in a field where I was laying and basically dying from exposure and the effects of the drink and the drugs. Now, what happened was an ambulance pulled up because the driver needed to go for a wee. So he got out the ambulance, hopped over the fence into a field, started going for a wee, looked down and saw my body.
Wow.
And then I was picked up, taken to hospital, put into a coma, and then I'd spent a month recovering from that. I had absolutely no recollection of doing that. The only thing I knew about it was the fact that I had this terrible murderous feeling on my back all evening. And that was the last thing I remembered, is that I went to bed to try and sleep it off. But I think that, you know, I know now that was there, like they were going to try and take me out. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but it was a strange time. But then I had to completely rebuild my life, basically. So
was that what happened that was a catalyst for you to rebuild your life? Was it an event was that when that event happened, or was it something else? No.
So I went through a series of so obviously all the time that this has happened, that what happened during the event obviously was always in the back of my mind. And I thought that I was an awakened being because of that, but I didn't realize I was only like half awake, if you like. You know, like I was aware, obviously, of what I believed was the nature of reality from what I was shown. And when I realized that I'd basically been derailed from a very powerful truth that I believe is like awareness is growing into this matrix, and there's more and more beings that are being born with the capabilities of higher awareness. And basically the control system itself has a plan for them and is trying to attack them on different levels. So yeah, I went back to basics. I started off with nothing, and I worked my way like back into the world.
Our listeners don't know what the event is. Can you summarize what happened with the event?
Yes. So when I was a teenager, I had something that's I realized over the last few years when I've been watching YouTube that it's very similar to what a lot of people have experienced on DMT. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I hadn't heard of DMT, and I definitely wasn't taking it. So just to clarify, for people, but yeah, I was sat in my bedroom, and like an American like game show host voice came in and said, "Let's go." And I started free falling upwards. And now, obviously, looking back at it, I realized that I was probably in my astral body, not my physical body. I just kept going. I just kept going upwards all the time. I was petrified. I kind of was trying to close my eyes, although I wasn't sure if I actually had eyes or not. But I was like, I wasn't prepared to look, basically. And I had this, I kept accelerating and accelerating out into what I perceived as space. And then I kept accelerating exponentially until I believe I reached the speed of light. And then I found myself in a completely different realm. And in this realm, there was no depth perception, and there was no up or down or anything. It was just this kind of black, velvety, sort of kind of shiny, kind of no place, if you like. And there was a narrator that was conveying messages to me during that time. And like I said, I didn't have a body at that time, so it was just like a state of pure awareness. And it asked me if I wanted to see reality for what it was, which I obviously agreed to. And then what happened was, in front of me, a whirlpool in this kind of sea of consciousness, if you like. It's very hard to explain with 3D words. I'm just doing my best with it. A whirlpool started to turn, and then another one was turning the other way, up below it. And then where the two vortexes met, white light appeared. And it showed me that, it said, look, this is reality, okay? This is reality, isn't what you think it is. And this white light that looked like a single star, it expanded slightly, and then I was able to move in on it. And when I looked, it was just information fields. So it looked like waveforms of like electromagnetic information. And it said that basically it was infinite creative potential, and that it didn't need to create actual houses and streets and people and cars and stuff. It just created information fields through pure will. And that consciousness decodes those information fields and turns them into what we consider to be 3D reality. So, and I was able to go backwards and forwards while I was there. Just briefly, I was able to sort of like go in and out of this white light, and so I could see firsthand what it meant, sort of thing, you know. And it said that within this white light was everything that ever has, is, and will happen. It's just happening within this information field. And then it said keep watching. And then after the white light had been stable the whole time that this narrator was talking to me, and then all of a sudden the white light expanded like in a death throe, and then just collapsed in on itself, and it was gone, and the vortexes above it and below it just sort of like dissipated. And it said that obviously that was not only my own story, it said that was everybody's story in every like thing that's ever happened in this world. And it said, look out. And so I sort of looked out across this vastness. Like I said, I had no depth perception. I could never tell when anything was in front of me or if it was a billion miles away. I couldn't tell. But when I looked out, I saw white lights blinking on and off in every direction that I could see forever. And every single one of them was a completely different reality that this infinite creative potential was making. And I realized at that point that we were all one thing, basically experiencing itself, and that it was just creating dreams. That's the way it kind of described to me, like it was an art, like it was a piece of art, like it was a dream. But it also said that in more relative terms, it just wanted to tell me where I was at the time. And it said that I was living in a part of that white light that had become separated from the rest of that information field. It said that a type of superego, if you like, had decided that it could separate itself off from the main dream and was creating its own dream within a dream. And it had basically trapped a certain proportion of consciousness to fuel that dream. And it just said, it wasn't worried about it, it wasn't judging it, because obviously it is it, you know. But it was saying that basically just to let me know that that's where I was, is I was living in a dream that was within a dream. a little bit further down the rabbit hole, if you like. And it said that another thing that was happening, he said that separation that had occurred without judgment was now being healed, and that smaller dream was going to be brought back into line with the rest of the dream, the greater dream, if you like. And he said that it was being done by awareness was being infused into the unconsciousness that is required in order for that other dream to happen. That consciousness needs to go into a slumber, into a deeper sleep, in order to dream these kind of dreams of separation. And that basically, so awakening was happening, and that it was a done deal. It was over. Awakening was coming into this dream, was going to cause all kind of havoc and stuff. But then ultimately, what was going to happen was that the dream was going to dissipate, because it was going to end and then like re-emerge itself into a greater dream that is still a dream, but it has conscious connection to the source. And so everybody that lives there, like I say, they're not better than us. They're not good and we're bad or anything, but they behave accordingly because they have access to like the knowledge of, like, you know, the source of all reality, basically. So therefore they know they're all one, and therefore they you know, they don't do stuff to each other like we do. But yeah, they said that program was underway, and it said that basically, yeah, that it wasn't like, because obviously I'm not an individual, nor are you. It just said that we were all awareness, basically, and that awareness was kind of being brought out of the slumber by awareness. So, like, you know, it just manifests as me and you, basically. It's just because it's a cool theatre, you know.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense to me, because I've had similar messages. And I tend to have the narrator too when I have my experiences. There's this narrator. It's like, okay, what do you say? And you can ask any questions, and the narrator will respond. It's really,
and it has a completely different flavor to it than like the idea of like extraterrestrials, you know, talking to you. I've had telepathics from them as well, obviously, and it's not the same as like what the source is when it conveys information. It's not the same.
My husband thinks it's my own higher self. I said, well, that's possible. You know, it could be a...
But the thing is, though, is that all these terms, they all become kind of mute, really, because if you are ultimately, you know, there is no separation. So, of course, you are your higher self.
Right.
So when people say, well, you're just talking to yourself, and it's like, yeah.
So?
It's like, guess what? Because I'm infinite love. So, yes, of course, I am talking to myself. There is no one else.
Right. And we're all making it up. So that's why we're really in control. And I would say, well, if you're going to make it up, why don't you make up something nice, kind, loving, compassionate, empathetic? We don't have to make up World War III. We can make up something nice for everybody, so we all have food on our tables and roofs over our head. And
well, that's the thing, is it was one of the things that it was quite trying to impress on me was that, like, we have to sort of like there is no point in making war with the devil, if you like. And it was saying that basically, of course, ultimately this super ego, if you like, or what some people would call the demiurge or Satan or whatever word you want to use for it. It said that obviously it was us, you know, so like this idea that there's a war going on between us and it, and that we need to beat it and escape the matrix and all that kind of stuff. It said that wasn't really the answer. And he said the answer was unity consciousness, which means that we acknowledge our participation in the whole game, and then a healing occurs, you know, because it is ultimately us, and therefore, like, we don't heal this separation by causing more separation. Basically, it is caused by a bringing in together and a unification, and then together we all go home, not separate, you know.
Right. I've seen it like a big giant puzzle, and you know, we have to get all the pieces together. We all go as one. If you have one piece missing, it's like, nope, we can't leave anybody behind. Let's go get them.
That's right. We are inseparable from the source, and that's not everybody except, you know, this person or that group of people, or, you know, everything everyone's ever done here is just an extension of everything that everyone is here, basically. So
Let's
Theresa,
see if
you've
we
been
can bring him
quiet.
back on. Can we bring you back on?
Well, just let us see you again for people tuning in. And we'll say, hi,
There we
Dave.
go.
His sound is weird, so we have him talking so we get the story. But this is who we're talking to, Dave Hunt, and he's got a fabulous story about the nature of existence and reality and what's really going on. Do you have any feedback, Theresa, on what Dave was just covering?
Oh, his story sounds very familiar to me as I've been out there and been there, done that, got that T-shirt. So I think you did a good job of expressing it because I've heard it before in my own head and in my own dealings. However, coming out a bit out of body and near-death experiences, Dave, I've experienced the same thing several times, and I've actually written books about what you're describing. Don't know, I never market them to get people understanding what I've been trying to do, but it sounds like we're kindred spirits in a way that makes people understand there's more to life than what we're being taught, and we're finding each other.
Yeah. So we can't hear you, Dave, so you'll have to go back to doing that. But I was wondering if there's like an instruction manual. Is there a way we can break this down into 1, 2, 3 ABC where people can start doing this practice? And what I come up with is if you're saying you're doing something that's not kind, just self-correct and do it again right. Do it again nice. Even at the thought level. But what you come up with?
So it had like a different. The narrative that was given to me during that time was like, it was very like beyond duality. It wasn't really concerned about the idea that there was good and bad and stuff.
Right.
It just basically said the only difference was between asleep and awake. And it said, obviously, people that are asleep do what's perceived as terrible things, and people that are awake don't. So, but it wasn't really concerned about like this, that, or the other. It was kind of a little bit different to the idea of morality, if you like. But it taught me years later. Obviously, that happened to me spontaneously, that experience. But then years later, like after I'd been tried to be derailed by these entities that tried to get me to. They told me that I was an alien and all this kind of stuff. These guys, and I believed them for a while as well. Like I was walking around completely alienated from other people and stuff. But then when I started my, if you like, the latter part of my genuine journey, yes, I was given a technique as to how to de-link from reality. Because obviously, a lot of people are getting the information about reality not being what we think it is. And that we're starting to come to terms with the idea that it is just an information field that we're decoding into 3D reality. So there is a way, it was a technique that I sort of developed myself through like guidance and meditations and stuff, which like it works for me. And I do lay it out in one of the videos. It's called The Technique on my YouTube channel, but I'll go through it briefly now if you like.
Okay.
So what would happen is I would, you can do it in bed before you go to sleep. It helps if there's no external stimulus really, or as little as possible, And then what you do is you lay in a darkened room on a bed, really nice and comfy, and then you start breathing. If you've done meditation, then it's easier for you to fall into the meditative state. There's no requirement that you are a meditator or anything like that. So the first thing you do is you feel your heartbeat, and you bring yourself fully present into your body, like feeling your heartbeat running. And then you start like consciously, you don't try to control it, but you just become very conscious of your breath. And then once you're in that really nice kind of like what we call the alpha state and stuff, you start looking at all the sensations that you're having one by one. So you look at the sensation of what it feels like to have a body, and then you become like you deeply like look with awareness at all the sensations, like the idea that you are laying down on a bed. It's just a sensation. You're not really laying down on a bed. You're not really in a body. You're not really even in your bedroom. So you sort of ask the questions as in like, how do I know that I'm in a bedroom? And then start looking at all the information feedback that you're getting that's telling you that you're in a bedroom, and then deeply knowing that it's It's just you're not those sensations. You're only the awareness of those sensations. And as you come face to face with the fact that you keep telling yourself, "Oh, right, so this isn't real. This is just an information field that I'm decoding into a sensation." Your reality just you become more and more separated. I might not be describing it that well tonight, to be fair. I would suggest anyone go and watch the video that I did.
Great. We'll put the link to that show page, yes.
But then what happens eventually is you find yourself not in your body anymore, not in your bedroom anymore, and not in the world anymore. And then you get left with what is true about you, which is the awareness of those things, not those things themselves. So I would sort of one thing I would say to people is, if we accept the idea of, do you understand that if for something to be observed, there has to be an observer, yes?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And those two things can't be the same thing, there has to be a separation between one and the other in order for that relationship to be there. So if you, if I say to people, "Oh, think of like a red car," or say the word red car. They can say the word red car. And then I'll say, "Well, okay, how do you know that you said that?" And they'll say, "Well, because I just said it and I heard my ears heard me say it, and I'd moved my vocal cords and all that kind of stuff, and I was aware of it." And I'm like, "Okay, then, so that means that you're not your body, because you're aware of what your body's doing, and you can't observe your body if you are your body." And then if they go a step further, and I'll say, "Okay, this time, just think about a red car. Okay, just think red car and tell me when you've done it." And then when they tell you that they've done it, you go, "Okay, how do you know you've done it?" And they'll say, "Well, because I could, I thought the word red car in my head, and I visualized one in my head, and then I told you." And I'm like, "Right, okay, so the fact that you were able to observe that you thought of a red car and you thought the words red car, that means that you're not even your mind, because you can observe your mind. You can observe your thoughts. You can't possibly be your thoughts, because you have to be something other than what you're observing." So the question's left, who are you? And who we ultimately are, beyond all the stories and all the narratives, who we ultimately are is just pure awareness. Now, it's that pure awareness that has become trapped through identification with form. And that's the whole nature of this world, is it's a massive distraction. It's a madhouse distraction, so that we identify with all the terrible things that are happening and all the dramas, and even then all the other stuff as well. You think about it, right from a child, you were just taught with kids' shows all the time. Look at this, touch this, say that, sing this. Do you know what I mean? It's all and as you get older, it's all kind of have this holiday, have this house, do this, want this. It's all a massive distraction in order to get you to identify with everything except the one thing that you actually are, which is the awareness of all those things. So what's happening now, I believe, is that people like me and you, that we are coming into the world. Of course, a lot of it's coming in through ultimately, the alien narrative and stuff like that, people waking up to the fact that the world's not how they thought it was, but the narrative needs to keep moving forward, because the world's not only a little bit like we thought it was, it's nothing like we thought it was. And that's why I'm manifesting now. That's why I'm coming out and speaking, because obviously you can see that the world's trying to distract us even harder at the moment, because it knows that this is going on. So of course the wars are ramping up and all the terrible things and the weather and all the rest of it. I do feel for you, because I live in Wales, and it's kind of like we've had some horrendous weather here for the last 6 months as well. But also I believe that there's a false alien narrative that's going to be inflicted on the world. You can see it the way the government's talking now. They are definitely starting to change the whole narrative around the idea of aliens. And of course, we know that they are liars. Politicians are liars. Yeah, that's what they are. They're professional liars. You can tell when they're lying because their mouths are moving. But
their mouths are moving. So, Dave, what do you think about Spielberg's new film, Disclosure Day, which premieres June 12th, 2026?
think he's absolutely like, I'm not sure how like consciously he's in on it, but he's definitely like he's in the club. And like, you know, I had to, you know, I only raised one eyebrow when I saw the new still for it, you know, when they were sort of talking about it, and it was the eye. Yeah, it was like a big eye in a kind of, you know, supposed UFO, but if you squint at it, it looks a bit like a pyramid. And yeah,
there's
of course,
a new trailer out. I'll have to go find that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see that, like, you know, obviously it's, and it's. I think it would be just below it. It was saying like, we deserve to know. And of course, he's been a part of creating this false narrative around aliens for decades. You know,
well, we all have in a way, whether we knew it or not, because just like those people that you recruiting, it's like you don't know at first. You see greater tech or greater, you know, magic or whatever they're doing, right? They can walk through walls, and you have no idea. And then, you know, I'd say most of my experiences have been positive. They correlated with my near-death experiences, which are very high spirituality. But, you know, I think that if once we get conscious and aware, then all that fades away, right? Like, it just dissolves. And then I
would like to say that.
Yeah, go ahead.
That I have on occasion had experienced contact with beings that I do believe, like, but now I'll just go backwards and explain myself. Sorry.
That's okay.
So there was one night where I was with a friend of mine, and we both had a telepathic communication at the same time to say that that these guys were about to come into the front room. We were both meditating at the time. Like, he was on one sofa, I was on another sofa. We were sort of kind of sitting there cross-legged meditating, and we looked across at each other and said, did you just get that? You know, because we both at the same time had this message come into our head saying, look, just stay calm, we've got to come in quickly. And he was like, yeah. And then next thing we knew, 3 guys walked in through the back door of my house. And it was at the time the back door of my house went straight into the garden. They didn't open the door; they just walked straight through the door. And one stood in the middle. One went and sat next to my friend, and the other one came and knelt down in front of the sofa where I was. Now, I lost consciousness at that point. My friend didn't. He was there for about. He said that they were there for about like sort of 7 or 8 minutes or something like that. For quite a while. He said they laid my body down on the sofa, and then they started passing a light up and down the length of my body. And the guy that was sat next to him explained that they have to do this for me because other things were being done to make me ill, so they were just counteracting it by remedying like my energy somehow. Now, he asked them where they were from, and they said, it's hard to explain. They said, we're not from inside this reality, we're from outside of this reality. Now, I believe now that what's happening is that most of the, like, if you like, positive interactions with non-humans is coming from the greater dream. It's not coming from space per se. It may sometimes be easier for them to sort of say, oh, we come from space or whatever, you know, just. But ultimately, it's not actually the paradigm. You've got the control system, if you like, within inside the matrix, which is made up mainly of like greys and say people that are masquerading as angels of light, if you like. But then you have got genuine, like, brothers and sisters that are coming from outside of this separated dream, who are coming into it and part of the program of influxing awareness. And but those guys, they say they're not coming necessarily in my understanding, they're not coming from like the Pleiades or anything. They're actually coming from outside of the matrix, and they're coming in. They told him that they couldn't stay here long because it was dangerous, so they were kind of very matter of fact. They were in and out. They were like there was a guy that was controlling. There was the one that stood up in between the sofas. He was like the kind of the guy that was coordinating everything, and he seemed to be like on a time frame. He's like that's it. They were done. They're gone. Now, my friend said that they were extremely kind of like mature. He said, like, in a really cool way. Like, they weren't pretending to be good guys or anything like that. They just genuinely were spiritually very mature. And the one that was sat next to him, when they sat me back upright, that's when I came back to consciousness again. And the one that was sat next to my friend, like he waved at him like a little child, did like a big thing, right in his face. And then they just stood up and just walked out of the room. But they didn't come up with any kind of, narrative of like, love and light and all this kind of stuff per se. They were just very, very real and very, very, like I say, came across as spiritually mature. But they were definitely breaking into this reality, and they had to get out again as soon as they were done. And I think it's because the control system itself obviously is aware, and it is closing in on these people. So I think a lot of the time there is a program going on with, like you say, for want of a better word, positive non-humans.
Right.
But it's not coming from necessarily where we think it is,
I read a theory about 20 years ago called the One God Universe, and that sounds like what you're describing. It's like a subparsing from totality of existence, and it's like a subroutine. And a lot of people are in that. They think they're in the reality, but they're in this little section of existence.
Have you noticed, like, another thing that's become sort of like, which I think is a symptom of this, is like people getting back into things like the Gnostic teachings and the Cathars and stuff.
Yeah.
So they taught a very similar thing, but they believed that like the God of this world was actually like what they called the demiurge, was like actually a false god,
right.
And he created a false world in order to trap souls. And it's actually very, and I didn't know about this at the time. Obviously, this is what happened to me. Happened when I was a teenager, and this stuff really wasn't running around like in the 80s and stuff, like it is now.
Right.
But but it actually like sort of shocked me when I read the Nag Hammadi scriptures and stuff, and found out that people thousands of years ago were saying that things are not as they appear to be, and that, basically kind of like that, Gnostic scriptures actually just sounds like the Matrix movie, just like, but in olden times. So, and it's like Gnosticism has definitely been making a comeback in people's kind of thought patterns, and I think it's possible that is a symptom of the truth vibrations that are entering the world and breaking up the slumber. The old teachings are kind of coming back to the forefront again. And I'm not saying they're completely accurate, but in theme, they're definitely heading in the right direction.
So, Dave, is there hope? Are we gonna do ourselves, or are we gonna wake up in time?
So the way it was shown to me was that basically it was as this like dream is healed. Most people, if you like, most divine sparks, or however you want to call it, they don't decide to go straight home, like back into the infinite unmanifested. There is a long way to go before we make peace and go back into that. So they said basically, we just re-emerged into the greater dream. There was a healing. The separation was healed. The consciousness that was trapped here goes back into the grander imagination, if you like. And that we basically lived for a long, what we'd call time, in a more unified, more conscious dream. It's still only a dream. Obviously, anything that oscillates is a dream. Okay, so the stillness is the unmanifested truth. But a dream needs to vibrate. So like it needs to be like it needs energy to get going. So obviously, anything that you can manifest, experience is illusory in nature. But you can have conscious connection illusions. Where we can still experience individuality. I can still experience meeting you. But we can meet each other and at the same time, paradoxically, know that we are one.
Right.
And of course, that means it's not about me being a good or bad person. It just means that I literally would only do to other people what I would have done to me. It's not, Yeah.
This is like a big play. We all assume different rules, and they call it Leela, divine play Leela. We're just
That's it.
So.
It's funny when you really step back and look at things like all the traditions, all the religions and stuff like that. You can look at them at an angle which makes you realise they are all basically saying the same thing. Like even the like the Hindus and stuff, they have the wheel of samsara, where you can't get off the wheel of reincarnation. You can't escape this world just by dying, sort of thing. You're going to get reprocessed. And then you hear people in near-death experiences, which I find obviously I've heard plenty, and but I find that some of the interesting ones where they talk about it being very technological, and then like being brought back against your will, and that things aren't necessarily as they appear. Like, the idea of like spiritual masters coming to you and telling us all that we're not good enough, to sort of like to move on, and that we need to sort of live out karma and stuff like that. Oh yeah, who says? You know what I mean? Like me and you, we started off perfect. We started off as infinite, unconditional love that like dreamed itself into existence.
Great.
I don't need to learn spiritual lessons in order to to go home. I am home. Do you know what I mean? I am the truth. It's like I don't need to learn lessons. And I definitely don't need guys in white beards or wearing white robes and stuff telling me that I'm not good enough when I'm inseparable from God. So I think we need to sort of like when we die, we need to sort of die consciously, and not put up with this sort of like gaslighting that we're going through.
Well, I've had several near-death experiences, and I always chose to come back. And I said, I'm not finished. I have my mission here, which is to talk to you and Theresa Day.
Yeah, and that
create
could well
awareness in the world. Yeah,
and that's that obviously that can be the case. Do you know what I mean? I'm here too.
Right.
So I'm not saying to anyone that like you shouldn't choose to be here. I am still here. I've had awakenings. I've got a certain level of awareness and stuff, but I'm still manifested here. You know what I mean? I'm not killing myself or whatever, or saying I'm off, guys, see you later. And I also had an experience one night that kind of made me realize. So when I was talking about the technique of how I delinked from the illusory input, one night when that happened, I got back to the same place that I was when I was a teenager, and I'd managed to do it myself rather than it being spontaneous. This only happened last year, and that's why I tell people about the technique, because for me it works. I know everyone needs to find their own way, but like I explain in the video, like at depth, how to do it, how I did it at least. But what happened was, I got there and I was offered to go home. And the narrator came back in again, and it was to say, it's your best friend, basically. Right. Sort of came in and sort of said, Dave, yeah, right, effectively this is what he said, not word for word, but he said, yeah, okay, you're done, mate. You're free. You have freed yourself of illusion. If you want, man, you can go home. You can just stay here. You don't have to. You don't have to keep going back into reality. If you've seen through it all and stuff, you can stay. And I was like, oh, okay. And he said, like, because just let me. Obviously, you can stay. You come with me. Do you know what I mean? Whatever. He said, let me just tell you what happens within the illusion. And I was like, okay. I said, okay. So what happens is not that it matters. I said, because obviously it is an illusion. He said, but tomorrow morning, your wife comes into the bedroom, because we've got special needs children, so we have to sleep we have to sleep with them in bed separately, sort of things. They can't be trusted to be on their own. So he said, she comes into the bedroom, finds you dead in the bed. Right? And she said, so obviously, because you've gone home. She goes, but obviously what happens within the illusion is that your body, you have to die there, sort of thing, And he said that then basically a series of, I don't really want to go into them too much because it's quite horrific, but she said it said a series of terrible events happens. 2 more of them of my family died within a year, and the other one put into care. And he said, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's just an illusion. And he said, or you can go back. And I was like, I was like, I can't. And he said, right, okay. He said, cool. He said, obviously go back. He said, but I'm just telling you, it said, like, you can think you're free of illusion. He said, but he said, there's different levels to knowing that you're free. It said, so obviously at this point in your life, you still care about things like what happens to your children and stuff, which there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. It said, but just understand that you can be, intellectually aware of the truth. You can even have experience of the truth. It doesn't mean that you stop caring about what happens within the illusion. So go back and do what you're going to do in this life. You can't run away from what you could, but there's a reason why we shouldn't. Just because it is an illusion doesn't mean we don't care, and it doesn't mean we won't do the right action in order to heal the illusion, even though ultimately it is just an illusion. I still care what happens to you. I still care what happens to everyone.
I had the same thing happen. They showed me if I stayed dead, this will happen to your brother, this will happen to your sister, to your mother, your father. And then they showed me on the It's a Wonderful Life. If you die at 4 years of age, and it was like it was a giant butterfly effect that the death of this person, Janette, was like had all these cosmic things. They go, me? Come on, I could see the person. Yeah. And it was like, well, it's you don't know. Oh, okay. I think we're getting kicked off or something. Theresa?
Yeah,
okay.
It's time to go. We're at 1:16.
Okay, but we can have you back. Definitely. It's fascinating. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's the thing. We could talk for hours, couldn't we? We could.
I think so. We could. And I know it's really late for you there in Wales.
It's just gone 2:00 here in the morning. I've got work at 7. So
okay, let's call this a day, wherever you are in the world. Theresa, okay. Final words. Dave, you the last words. Go ahead, Theresa.
Thank you, David. We really appreciate you coming, and would like to have you back. And tell us the name of your YouTube. Is it Hunt David Hunt?
No, it's just called David Hunt Talks. And for those of you that have not had enough, you can go on YouTube at David Hunt Talks. And I think at the moment there's about 44 videos up or something.
Yeah.
And it basically, I'm trying to, like I say, with more time on that video, on that channel, I managed to weave the story with different spiritual aspects woven in, and then there's a lot more about my personal life and stuff like that as we went forward. So, wow. It's worth checking out. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Fascinating. And I see that you met David Icke.
All right.
David. He was at my house for a month one time because he was doing work here. He wanted a secret place, and so we hit him in the jungle.
Okay, right.
Many years ago, and he had a great vacation. But go ahead, Theresa. We got to wrap this up.
Let's see your face.
One more time and wave goodbye.
Let's see your face again, Dave.
Goodbye. Thank you,
tell
everybody.
People how to contact you. Do you have social media, Dave? Where do people contact you?
Facebook, right? Oh, you have to do.
I'm not on it, so I don't. It's a friend of mine that runs it, so it's not the best way to get hold of it. The best way would just be go on YouTube and I answer all the comments. If anyone ever wants to say anything to me.
Can't hear you. Try it again.
I'm just saying at the moment, the best way to contact me is just to comment on the YouTube videos because I answer them all. So, yeah.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And
David
stay on, I guess. Yeah, stay on while the download's happening. But go ahead, Theresa.
It never works to stay on, but thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll get you a copy of the YouTube if you want it. But David, you should be able to download it, but I realize you're on your phone, so Janet and I will make sure you. Well, it's on YouTube. You can just go to your YouTube. Go to American Communications Online is one of them, and
Aquarian Media. It should go on Aquarian Media.
Aquarian Media, live. Yeah. Okay. All right. Love and light, everybody. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. Aloha.
Thank you.
You're on.